I'm up on the roof of my house, and I was clearing off some snow here the other day because we have had a pretty gnarly winter. You can see the other roofs of my greenhouse still pretty thick, even my neighbor's roof over there. But what I did was I just scraped it off to break it up so that it would melt, because we've had really nice weather lately. And I'm going to have my friend Landon Aldridge, who runs Terra Energy. He's the guy I've hired to install the system. He's going to come up on the roof here and explain a little bit about what we're doing. All right, we're up on the roof here with my buddy Landon from Terra Energy. And tell us about the system we're putting up here, Landon.
So we're going to be doing an 11.5 kilowatt grid tie system. So we're going to be tied to the local utility here, be able to offset a lot of Curtis's consumption. And if there's any instance where he's producing more than he's consuming, it goes back to the grid and they stockpile a bunch of credits for you.
Right, and so how do they, in BC here, it's probably different for every energy utility company, but how much do they pay us? Is it cent for cent, or do they pay me less than I pay for it to get back?
Sure, in most jurisdictions it's set up as what's called net metering. So we're tying into your service first, so you have the opportunity to use that energy first.
Yeah.
So if there is anything left over, it goes back to the grid. They build up credits for a period of a year. If after that year you still have credits left over in the kitty, then they're going to pay you out, of course, at a little bit lower than the market rate. So, let's call it 10 cents a kilowatt hour. But
okay.
But because right now you're paying almost 16 cents on your second tier, you're going to be chewing that down, and then obviously that's going to be increasing every year.
So net metering, meaning that the credits they give me are equivalent to the ones I would use.
That's right.
Okay, so that's great.
Exactly. So as that rate continues to increase, as it has been for 5 to 5.5% per year.
Yep.
So does the value of that kilowatt hour that the system produces.
Yeah, so I'm essentially locking in at a certain energy price for the long term.
Solar won't increase once you pay for it.
Yeah. And so I know people are going to ask this question, so I'll just ask it anyways. Why are we not, like, somebody's going to say, hey, why don't you use the Tesla battery? I know you get that question a lot, but I want people to hear it.
Well, I think there's certain realities we have to look at with that battery is, what would be its sole purpose, I guess, in your case? You would need a fair amount of battery storage to be able to, live completely off grid here. And because we do get overcast skies in the wintertime, it becomes that much more difficult to rely on it without some additional source.
Right.
Here, because we don't really have the time of use billing that a lot of other jurisdictions do, like California, like Australia, like Germany, Tesla becomes really a more expensive backup situation rather than, trying to circumvent the higher rates.
Right. And do you think with the way that technology is going that those batteries are going to be something that we might use in a few years if the price point gets down and the efficiency is there? Or is it kind of like grid tie just makes sense for the next long term?
Yeah, I think grid tie makes sense for the long term, unless you're worried about power outages.
Right. Maybe in a rural context that might be more.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or if you can go to what's called a hybrid system where you can play a little bit on, say, some smaller off-grid loads and do the rest of your, the bulk of your loads with a grid-tied system.
Right. So essentially, if I were to get a Tesla battery, the only purpose would be for power outs. It would never really be used, because if I'm net metering and I'm putting all of my excess each day into the grid and then getting it back at the same price, what's the battery would only be there for if there was a power out.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if we eventually do to what's called time of use billing, where you pay more during the day than you do at night.
And that's like in California, is
Correct.
that right? Yeah. So there's more of incentive to do it there.
Correct.
Yeah. Makes sense. A lot of sense. Oh, so tell us about what we're gonna do up here. How this is all gonna lay out.
Well, once the snow melts here, we're going to start with the mounts and the racking system. So the mounts slide up underneath the shingles. We do an aluminum solar rail across that, and then mount the solar modules to that rail.
Yeah.
This system we're going to use what are called microinverters. So there'd be inverters underneath
Each panel?
Each panel, actually every 2 panels on the roof.
Okay.
They convert from the DC that the solar produces to 240 volts AC. They also sync up with the grid.
Yeah.
Then we feed it down and tie into your service panel downstairs.
So those microinverters, that's a relatively new thing, isn't it, in solar? Because what didn't it used to have? Like, you'd have one inverter for the whole
Exactly.
system. And does this mean that you get more efficiency if there's shading at certain times a day on different panels? Or
You got it. You got it. So that's really, their intent is to, it used to be everything was connected in series, like the old Christmas lights. You lose one light, the whole system goes down. Well, not quite to the same extent with solar, but microinverters now, allow them to operate independently from one another. So if there are some small shading issues on the roof, they don't bring the entire array down. They just affect the one module.
Yeah. And a question I have, I think I know the answer, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody asked this, is do solar panels generate more when it's cooler? Like, are they more efficient when it's cold than if it's warm?
Yeah, on a day like today, hovering around 0 degrees Celsius with nice sun, they would be cranking out.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked to get this set up. I mean, it's been sunny. It's finally sunny again. I think we're past
it's a great winter. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, perfect time to get this up. All right, thanks, Landon.
No worries.
So that is Landon, and that's the system. I will leave his information on his website down below if you guys are interested in what he's doing. If you're in the area, in my area, and you're looking for solar, he's definitely the guy. And stay tuned for more. We'll be hopefully getting this up before I leave for New Zealand at the end of the month and start taking advantage of the beautiful sun energy that is abundant and available every day. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later.